Trump has won without a shadow of a doubt now. This is absolutely amazing. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. We were talking about this several weeks back on this channel. The Times, Kennedy's running mates suggest they may drop out of the presidential contest. CNN, Trump says he's considering appointing RFK Jr. to role in administration. Fox News, RFK Jr.'s running mates suggest ticket may drop out. BBC, RFK Jr.'s running mate says campaign may back Trump. ABC News, RFK Jr. considering ending campaign. This is absolutely fantastic, ladies and gentlemen, for a number of reasons. If you were an independent and you were leaning more towards the philosophy or the political ideology or more towards Trump, yet you just weren't sure about Trump's personality and you wanted somebody, like RFK Jr., well, he is now essentially endorsing Donald Trump for president. How many independent voters will that sway? I think a great many. Okay, here's why. When the most popular independent candidate in the United States of America, probably the most popular since Ross Perot, when he's endorsing Trump, that sends a message that Democrats, the Democratic Party, Harris, Biden, essentially are just not good for the future of this country. In terms of the economy, in terms of foreign policy, it's been an unmitigated disaster in terms of foreign policy. High interest rates are the only reason inflation is somewhat in control, although inflation keeps going up. They also flooded the country full of strategic petroleum reserves. Then you have we're on the brink of a stock market collapse, a financial collapse, because Democrats spent trillions on things like the Inflation Reduction Act. Anyway, Trump and RFK Jr. agree on most things, ladies and gentlemen. They agree on most things. There are, of course, some things they don't agree on, but they agree on most things. It's basically Trump, RFK Jr., Elon Musk, Tulsi Gabbard, all the people in this country, in this political arena, that are independent-minded, that are individuals, that don't adhere to sacred cows propped up by media and multilateral and multinational organizations and this warped and twisted public relations machine that elevates the Democratic Party today. The Democrats don't really stand for anything. They're actually trying to push price controls. Okay, they caused the inflation by forcing shutdowns of businesses 4 years ago, and that was a choice that did not have to happen. That was the most foolish, sinister decision. And blue state governors gleefully shut down economic activity. Then we had to pump trillions into the economy. They stopped people from working. And all the while, it was people like RFK Jr. pointing out, hey, this doesn't make any sense. Trump also stated he didn't want that to take place. He shouldn't have acquiesced for 2 weeks or a month, but he kept trying to open up the country, and then media said, contrary to the experts, Trump is trying to open up. Democrats would have still forced a shutdown of economic activity had Trump, even to this day, had Trump been regained the Oval Office 4 years ago. He'll do so on November 5th. RFK Jr. essentially endorsing Trump. Hit subscribe right now to my super chat. Thank you. This is a beautiful, beautiful day or evening. Let's listen to President Trump talking about the endorsement, potential endorsement, or almost certain endorsement.
Can I ask you about RFK? Because just moments ago, his running mates said that they were considering endorsing you. Have you considered him for a role in the administration, and what role would that be?
Well, we haven't, but I would love that endorsement because I've always liked him.
Would you also consider putting him in the administration?
You're asking me a very unusual question. I haven't been asked that question yet. I like him a lot. I respect him a lot. I probably would if something like that would happen. He's a very different kind of a guy, a very smart guy. And yeah, I would be honored by that endorsement, certainly. We got a great endorsement from Elon Musk, which I think meant a lot. And, we're leading with all of the lies and all of the everything. I watched last night. It was so sad when I looked at the lies talking about Charlottesville. Charlottesville is totally debunked. You know that. But when you talk about
It
all...
happened. Charlottesville
No. Biden said he ran because of Charlottesville. First of all, he doesn't know what Charlottesville is. The guy doesn't know where he is. But he didn't run because of Charlottesville. It was just an excuse. But the whole Charlottesville story was totally debunked. All of the things they said were debunked. The soldiers in France with the grave. I love our soldiers. That was a made-up story by a magazine.
And you saw what John Kelly said in response to your comments about the congressional medal.
John Kelly, I fired him. And John Kelly has an axe to grind, and he made up a story. Nobody would say what he said. I would be the last person who said, he's a liar. He's been a proven liar. He's lied on other occasions. I fired John Kelly. It's interesting. When you fire people and you don't respect people, after I got to know him, I realized he wasn't the right guy. I fired him. See, Biden never fired anybody, ever. Because, why didn't he fire people after Afghanistan, that disaster? He should have fired his whole top military for that, the most embarrassing moment of this country's history. With a John Kelly, I didn't respect him. Once I lost my respect for him because I saw that he couldn't do the job, I fired him. And when you fire people, they tend to say negative things. Who would say a thing like that? Nobody would say a thing like that.
You're saying what he said, you said.
Of course, he made the story up, or he actually didn't. It was made up by a magazine that's a very liberal magazine, and then he was the one person that confirmed it. We have 26 people that dispute that story. But nobody wants to write about that. We have 26.
I have one last question about RFK. So you said that you would consider him for an administration post. Yesterday you said you would consider Elon Musk for an administration post. That would be a very untraditional administration. What would you say to Republicans that might turn off?
Well, I like smart people, and Republicans like me. We had the quickest approval process in the history of the nominating process. We went through it very quickly, and they like me, and I like them, and we want to do a great job. But you're just asking me a question. I didn't know about RFK, but I like him and I respect him. And you're saying, would I think about him for something? And the answer is yes. He's a brilliant guy.
You put RFK Jr. and you put Elon Musk in Trump's administration. It's the best thing for the United States of America, the best thing for the future of this country. You think about Donald Trump, Tulsi Gabbard, Elon Musk, RFK Jr. These people do not adhere to groupthink. They do not kowtow or worship media. They don't care what Hollywood thinks. They are going to do what's best for the country, for the United States of America. That's it. Democrats do oftentimes really what's best for their ideology. That's why they're pushing price controls instead of addressing inflation the way Trump would, which is increasing supply and production of energy. That's why when Trump says drill, baby, drill, Democrats say the same thing, but they ask other countries to do that. So when they beg other countries for oil and energy, Trump says, why not just do it here? Okay, if you care about the environment, it's still taking place in other regions of the world, even if you say, well, we're going to make our government and regulations and we're going to restrict energy production in the United States of America. Well, what Democrats do is they release strategic petroleum reserves because they ignored inflation. They said it was only temporary, goes to 9%. Then they make it difficult for oil and gas companies to operate in the United States of America. And then they ask other countries and beg other countries for oil. With Trump, you don't have that. You had a great economy. We had record low poverty with Trump. If you're on the far left, you should love Trump. But let's continue.
Well, it's the hottest party in the country, folks. The 2024 Bitcoin conference in Nashville underway right now. The speaker lineup headed, of course, by former President Trump speaking tomorrow. Russell Brand is there, Edward Snowden, Vivek Ramaswamy, and my next guest, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Robert, welcome to the show. Now, you launched your campaign last year at that Bitcoin Miami conference. Why have you been so attached to this Bitcoin blockchain movement?
You know, Charles, when I knew a little bit about Bitcoin, and I actually got introduced to it after the Ottawa trucker strike, when the government of Ottawa shut down everybody's bank account who was participating in a peaceful public protest. And
by the way, he's 100% right here about what he's saying. I actually think there's going to be a financial collapse, market collapse. I think Bitcoin's going to collapse in terms of price. But I respect the philosophy behind why people, invest in Bitcoin, which is what RFK Jr. is talking about.
I realized that transactional freedom was as important as freedom of speech, because if the government can starve you to death and get you thrown out of your home and make it so you can't buy gasoline without ever charging you with a crime, without ever convicting you of a crime, just because you complained about a government policy, then freedom of speech is meaningless. Bitcoin clearly was an answer to that, and that's what brought me to that Miami conference. I left that conference utterly enthusiastic about the capacity of Bitcoin to solve a whole host of other problems, cybersecurity problems. It is the currency of freedom. It gives transparency to government. It democratizes our government. It's a hedge against inflation. It's an off-road to these terrible $34 trillion deficit that it can save us from. And it stops money from a government from just printing money, which is the only way to really end war. The government, as long as the government can print unlimited amounts of money without ever asking us if they can tax us, the wars are going to continue forever. So there are so many benefits to it. I actually left that Miami conference, and I had just received my check for my fees from the Monsanto case, and I put almost all of that into Bitcoin, which represented a large part of my own net worth. I didn't do that to make money, although I ended up making substantial money. I did it because of the association with Bitcoin, with personal freedom, right, with transparency, right, with democracy, all the things that that we ought to be working toward.
One of the ironies, as you were telling the story, the truckers, that up in a skyscraper in a penthouse, one of the biggest central bankers in the world lodged the complaint because of the noise. You can't make this stuff up. I know you spent a lot of... It is, yeah. I forgot the dude's name, but he's huge. He's like one of the world's greatest central bankers, and the truckers are making too much noise. Cut him off. I know you spent a lot of today dismissing reports of dropping out, endorsing Donald Trump. But I want to also shift, because you were certified in Nebraska, and this is over...
This is 3 weeks ago, by the way. This is 3 weeks ago. So, this was about 3 weeks, a month ago. This interview. Okay, so just today, his running mate is essentially saying that he's going to endorse Trump. This is huge, ladies and gentlemen. This is on par with the Supreme Court victories. Ladies and gentlemen, November 5th, please be here. It's going to be a beautiful day for democracy, for the country, for the future of America, for the future of the world. Trump will win. And RFK Jr. is going to be, his endorsement means a great deal.
Democratic Party opposition. So many Americans are saying that your former party, the nominating process, the anointment of Vice President Harris, that the whole thing has become un-American. That's a thread that's been your message from day one. What are your thoughts that more and more people are agreeing with you?
Well, yeah, when I was a kid, the whole the central focus of the Democratic Party was making sure that every American could vote for whoever they wanted to vote for. The Democratic Party today is all about the opposite of that, about making sure that candidates who are going to run against their chosen candidate that the legal system, that the law enforcement agencies are used to prevent those candidates from running. They made it almost impossible for me to get on the ballot in all the states. I am going to. In fact, we have now completed all the signatures. I think we have one state left where we have a couple.
By the way, God bless this man. His father and his uncle, okay, JFK during the Cuban Missile Crisis was told to invade Cuba. He said no. Actually, Robert McNamara writes about this in his book. There's a documentary on this. After the Bay of Pigs, JFK said, yeah, I'm not going to listen to the intel agencies because guess what? They're wrong. So could you imagine a Cuban Missile Crisis with Biden or Harris? Could you imagine? Anything they're told by advisors around them, they would just listen to without any question. And Trump, see, Democrats and media like to disparage Trump, but he is a man of integrity. He doesn't just kowtow and listen to, he's not going to just do the bidding of a memo given to him by some government agency, okay? Like JFK said, nah, I'm not going to go ahead and invade. We're going to do this a different way. Trump would do the same thing. We know that because he was the first president to step foot in North Korea. That never happened before. If President Obama or Hillary Clinton or Biden had done that, they would have said, oh my God, Nobel Peace Prize. In fact, people were talking about Trump getting the Nobel Peace Prize for that. But you had the Abraham Accords, which is a huge deal, which is exactly what's going on in that region of the world now. They're trying to undo that. And you had, he brought Americans out of the longest running counterinsurgency conflict, Trump did, tried to do so in another region of the world, and he was lied to by his own Pentagon, Trump. So, and then Biden pulled out. It was complete. He didn't even follow the Doha Agreement. It was a May 1st, 2021 withdrawal. But you have to ask yourself, okay, what makes RFK Jr. special? It's that he's his own individual. He's an individual. He is a human being that doesn't adhere to this paradigm of thought that is like Democrats. If you disagree with them, they'll disown you oftentimes. They won't be your friend anymore. It could be a 30-year friendship. They'll decide not to be your friend anymore because there's such tribalism. The Democrats of today are not like the Democrats, the actual Cold Warriors, the actual Cold War Democrats. They're not like RFK Jr. They're not like Robert Kennedy or John Kennedy. And so RFK Jr. speaks the truth. He tells the truth. He points out that the sacred cows of Democrats and media actually should never be worshipped. Actually, there's a great many problems that these people have, that the philosophy on the left or the media Democratic Party paradigm, there's a great many problems that have hurt this country. He points that out. So does Trump. So does Tulsi Gabbard. So does Elon Musk. That's why Democrats can't stand them. Because if you don't adhere to the Democratic Party paradigm, you're a menace to democracy. Meanwhile, they literally ousted a person who won their primary. Biden actually won his primary. How on earth did the vice president get all his delegates? I still haven't been explained. Nobody has ever explained how that happened.
Couple hundred signatures. We've gotten over 2 million signatures, more signatures than any presidential candidate in history. We've done something nobody in history has been able to do, up against these headwinds that they've created for us. They're suing us and all this says, well, we're going to win the lawsuits.
Yeah.
But it's not a good look for the Democratic Party. They're saying, well, we have to do this in order to save democracy from Donald Trump. But they're actually, the real argument is we're destroying democracy in order to save it. It's a paradox.
They kicked you out. Then they took the Biden voters and kicked them out. And I've got less than a minute ago, and I hate to rush you, but I got to get your thoughts on this because you brought up how.
Thank you for the kind words, Henry. To the members on this channel, thank you. It's interesting. Democrats actually had a government agency that was meant to police information, for information that misinforms. Literally what is in 1984. Literally a ministry of truth. They had a chairperson for their own Ministry of Truth. They wanted a government agency to police thought. That's the Democratic Party that cares so much about democracy. Okay? So when you point out, they keep saying democracy, Trump is a menace. It's like democracy has become a euphemism for Democratic Party political influence. That's it. That's what democracy is to them. Whatever is politically expedient, power, utility, that's what it is. They keep saying Trump is a menace to democracy. They don't know the first thing about democracy. Ask Bernie Sanders or Biden.
How Bitcoin can help us also mitigate or avoid wars. There was a tweet by Douglas McGregor that you retweeted, and essentially it's suggesting that if you look at the way things are going with UK and French trainers being intercepted by Russian missiles and Russian fighters, that we're being drawn in.
Being drawn into it. And, you know, Putin's demand, we had the opportunity twice to settle this war on terms that were very, very good for the American people in April of 2022. He was withdrawing his troops, and
so you can see that RFK Jr. doesn't. Here's the thing. We used to have about 20, 30, 40 years ago, every so often politicians who were individuals. Okay, you could look at Ross Perot, but you can look at Reagan also. They were individuals. They didn't really adhere to conventional mentality. Okay? And there were, like I said, RFK Jr., Robert Kennedy, John Kennedy. I mean, you can look, they did not. Democrats, by and large, Democratic Party politicians worship media. They will not say anything that will give them negative media. Okay? They need public relations executives all around them. They will never go on an impromptu discussion. Because if they do, they don't really have many independent thoughts. It's all like this artificial intelligence AI script, this AI algorithm. And you know what? Not all Democratic voters, but Democratic voters by and large, yay, Biden, yay, Harris. If Harris said, I don't really want to, let's give it to Hillary Clinton. Yay, Hillary Clinton. It wouldn't matter. They'll just vote for anyone that says it's a Democratic politician. Not so with Trump. They say that the cult is on the left, not Trump supporters. I'm not going to vote for anyone but Trump because I'm not this lifelong Republican. I used to be a Democrat, but I don't have any allegiance to a political party. I want what's best for the country. Many other Republicans, Nikki Haley, for example, would be the same type of politician as Harris or Biden. She would just, if she got a memo from Central Intelligence, Nikki Haley would do exactly what she was told. Not so with Trump, not so with Tulsi Gabbard, not so with RFK Jr., not so with Elon Musk. That's why I love these people.
And there's something else besides Trump that Biden has to worry about. RFK Jr.'s making noise. He has the highest favorability rating out of everybody. About half the country actually likes the guy. His support's growing. In a three-way race nationally, RFK Jr.'s pulling near 15% of the vote. That qualifies him for the presidential debates. That could be the greatest television ever, besides Jesse Watters Primetime. Kennedy, Trump, Biden, all on the same stage. No wonder Barack's taking the reins of the Biden campaign. No wonder Clinton's coming out of retirement. No wonder tickets are 500,000. Without donors, lawyers, and old faces, Biden doesn't even have a campaign. Let's bring in presidential.
So this is, of course, before Harris took over, but it's the same. I mean, it's the same political party that they're up against, that Trump and Elon Musk and Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. By the way, RFK Jr. endorsing Trump, I think, and I don't know this to be a fact, I'm just speculating here. I think RFK Jr. understands how sinister and how petulant his, lifelong political party can be. I think that he understands that Democrats, just like what they did to Trump, just like what they tried to do to Elon Musk, will try to do the same types of things to him. And right now, there's only one machine in American politics. The Democratic Party is a political machine. That's why Harris hasn't done interviews. That's why Trump and RFK Jr. love to do interviews. They want to get their message. They want to talk about. Trump just had an amazing. He has interviews everywhere now on like awesome, amazing YouTubers. So, but do you think Harris wants to do that? No. There's no way that Harris wants to do that. She just simply doesn't want to do that. Okay, she can't do that. Okay, actually, Trump has an amazing interview on Theo Vaughn's channel. Really awesome. You should check it out. I mean, it's already at like, wow, 1 hour, 1 million views. Theo Vaughn is fantastic. And he's speaking to Trump. And it's 1 hour, 1 million views. You think that if Harris or Biden or Hillary Clinton or former President Obama spoke to anyone online on the internet, it would be 1 million views in 1 hour? No. Trump has 1 million views in 1 hour on Theo Vaughn's podcast. Why do you think that is? Because everyone wants to hear what Trump is saying. And there's a human element to Donald Trump. He's a human being. He's not this caricature of evil that Democrats have tried to paint him as. RFK Jr. wants to speak. Trump wants to speak. Harris and Biden never want to speak. They simply hide behind a machine and say, well, the machine is acceptable. Trump is not acceptable. But that's not the democracy. And you are not born, and I am not born to adhere or to give allegiance to any political party. Okay? But with Democrats, it's a different story. Hit subscribe if you're new, by the way.
Candidate RFK Jr. We're hearing there's this gang of really nasty Democrat attorneys working for Biden that are just going to rip your throat out and strip your name off the ballot, RFK Jr. What's going on? Do you have a plan?
Yeah, they've already filed complaints or actions against us in Hawaii and Nevada, and we expect this in virtually every state.
These are the Democrats who talk about disenfranchising voters as they work tirelessly to disenfranchise their political opponents.
And, Jesse, when I was a kid, the Democratic Party was at the lead of fighting for voting rights for every American. And now the Democratic Party is doing everything it can to disenfranchise people and make sure that people can't vote for who they want to, using litigation against me. And, I'm not a fan of President Trump's, but I want to beat him in a fair fight. I don't want to win because of some scurrilous or spurious legal action against him that takes him out, removes him from the ballot and deprives Americans of the right to vote for somebody they want to vote for. And, the Democratic Party ought to stand for voting rights and encouraging as many people to vote as possible and giving them as many choices. That's what democracy is. It's not, the party in the Soviet Union, the political party would choose the candidates, and you had these kind of faux elections. And that's now what we're looking at in this country, where the political party has ordained its candidate and is doing everything it can to make sure that nobody else can get on the ballot.
You can see there's a lot of anger in the streets. I don't know if you can see the screen now, but there are mobs of angry Democrats, young Democrats, just furious with the Biden foreign policy. How do you see that shaking out?
Well, right now I'm doing better with young Americans than either President Trump or President Biden. I'm winning among young Americans under the age of 35 nationally. I'm beating both President Trump and President Biden in the battleground states among young Americans. I'm also winning among independents, which, Jesse, this year, for the first time in history, independents are the largest political affiliation. So 43% of Americans self-identify as independents
And so you have a huge, huge endorsement of Trump. Because I think, like Elon Musk purchasing Twitter, I think that RFK Jr. understands if Democrats have 4 more years, they are going to go after their political opponents. And one of their political opponents is RFK Jr.
Only 27% of Democrats, 27% Republicans. And, so the one group that I'm in a 3-way tie with Hispanic voters. The one group that I do poorly with is baby boomers, because they're watching MSNBC.
The baby
and
boomers. Aren't you a baby boomer? That doesn't make any sense to me. RFK Jr., let me ask you a question. Joe Biden snubs the funeral of Officer Diller. He doesn't go. He tapes a podcast and does a fundraiser. Do you think that was a compassionate thing to do?
I don't know what the thinking was in the Biden White House. I don't think it was a good judgment. Let me put it that way.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you have, this is just kind of like, I want to kind of give you a couple of interviews with RFK Jr. to give you a sense of the things he says that Democrats would never say. Okay, again, of course he differs from Trump on a number of topics, but he's a different candidate. He's running as an independent. He is a lifelong Democrat, but he's independent of thought. That's why a great many Democrats don't like Elon Musk. If you deviate from the wonderful, highly educated, morally superior liberal Democratic Party ethos or ideology or paradigm of thought, then you've committed blasphemy, heresy. You will be excommunicated. Your friends will probably disown you. And you're just a horrible human being, and you should never have been born, according to the wonderful, morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats. But if you have an independent mind and you're not like part of this groupthink and sheep, and you say, okay, this makes no sense. Okay, funding endless military conflict or not even trying to address major calamities around the world, or the fact that Democrats don't even have a specific foreign policy vision is why we have these problems. Pick one side. We can go on forever. I'm not even getting on the economic issues, the inflation, interest rates, all these problems.
Right now, how are you going to get on the others? I know you've started your own We the People party, and then there's a libertarian area where you could get on ballots in that way as well. What's the plan, and how quickly will it happen?
We're going to be announcing new states every week from now on. We're way ahead of our benchmarks. We will be on the ballot in 50 states and the District of Columbia. I think we have 80,000 volunteers now on the ground. We're finding it extraordinarily easy, actually, to persuade people to sign, and we're ahead of all of our expectations.
What do you say to those who say you're just a spoiler? You were very critical of Ralph Nader back in 2000. You wrote a piece in the New York Times criticizing him and saying that he was going to hurt the environment by handing the election to George W. Bush. So what do you say now to those who say that you're in the same position?
I hope to be a spoiler for both President Trump and President Biden. I hope to take votes from each of them and win the election.
So you don't consider yourself a spoiler?
No, I'm not in here to do anything except to win.
President Biden was in an ice cream shop and he was asked about Gaza, and he said,
So, does anyone believe that Biden really loves ice cream? Maybe everyone loves ice cream, but what is the fascination with, what was the point of trying to make Biden really love ice cream? Yeah, everyone likes ice. We get it. But what was this public relations spin? I still don't understand that. I still don't get it. I don't understand. And then they jettisoned him within, it took 3 weeks of negative media coverage. No amount of ice cream. He could have had 50 ice cream trucks. It wouldn't have mattered. Okay? He could have had 50 tons of vanilla ice cream. It still wouldn't have mattered. It took 3 weeks for media to turn on him after 4 years of media propping him up. 3 weeks and he folded. Trump has had 7 years of even more apoplectic coverage. Trump has had 7 years of endless negative coverage. 7 years versus 3 weeks. That's the difference between Trump and any other Democrat.
We have an economic crisis in this country where, the middle class is disappearing. It's been torpedoed. Where 57% of Americans can't put their hands on $1,000. Where an entire generation of kids cannot buy a home. This is a crisis. We need a president who is thinking about these things.
By the way, if you're in your 20s or 30s or even early 40s and you don't like Trump, you can't stand Republicans because they're immoral, man. And it's like, okay, if you can't afford a house, ask yourself what mortgage rates were when Trump was in office. See, again, this is like, I don't know everything about politics or economics, but it's like a lot of voters, a lot of people who just don't like Trump, they don't understand mortgage rates. They don't even know what they are. Because they unfortunately don't have the money or the ability to buy a home. But that's because of Biden's America, his economy. You can't buy a home in many major cities in this country because mortgage rates are close to 7%, 6.5% to 7%. Or they have been for a long time. They're going down now because of November. But they're over double. It was around 3% in 2018. So you had 3% mortgage rates. You have now doubled a mortgage payment. If you could afford a mortgage payment of $3,000 a month or $2,000 a month or $4,000 a month, under Biden it's $8,000 a month or $6,000 to $7,000 or $8,000 a month. Because of Trump's tweets, because of his mean tweets, instead of a mortgage payment on a new home of $3,000 a month, it's now $7,000 to $8,000. Congratulations, wonderful, morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats. You're paying double in terms of mortgage payments simply because of Trump's personality. Who cares? This is the only generation, this is the only electorate in American history that cared about a person's personality more than his economic policies. Put your pocketbook above of Trump's personality. If you make more money with Trump in office and it's easier to buy a home, vote for Trump. What's the problem there? That's like a moral thing to do. It's not immoral.
Who's articulating the solution for the American people.
Do you not have confidence that he can serve?
I think he needs to show Americans that he, a lot of these decisions are the products of complex and nuanced thought, and those thoughts need to be articulated to the American people in a way that we all support him. And I do not think that that's happening now. Our children's lives are dependent on that 3 o'clock a.m. call, and we need to know that we have a president who can wake up in the middle of the night and who is on his feet and thinking about those things. And I think a lot of Americans have lost confidence in that.
So you're saying you don't think he's actually in charge?
You know what? I have a personal issue, which is my Secret Service protection. And I've known President Biden for 40 years, and he was a friend. With all of the issues about him, he was somebody who I thought at least had a kind of fundamental decency. And the fact, I just don't believe that he would have personally made the decision to deny me for Secret Service protection.
Democrats denied RFK Jr. Secret Service protection after his father's life was taken and his uncle's life was taken. And Democrats of today, even though two iconic Democratic, one presidential candidate, attorney general, two iconic Democrats were taken from this world. Their lives were taken. The son of one of them, RFK Jr., Democrats denied him Secret Service protection. The petulance, it's not even that, the sinister, the evil thought process. Why would you deny RFK Jr.? Because you're a soulless political machine. You're the Democratic Party, and you will do anything possible to intimidate a political rival. And so RFK Jr. has committed blasphemy and heresy, and Democrats wanted to excommunicate him, so they denied him Secret Service protection, putting his life at risk. Congratulations, morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats. Who do you think people are going to talk about 100 years from now? Joe Biden and his ice cream, who was ousted by his own vice president, who will lose to Trump, or JFK, John Kennedy, or Robert Kennedy? Okay, it's not going to be any politician from this era of the Democratic Party. And then they did the same thing to Trump. We don't even have to, they had a bill to remove Trump's Secret Service from him. And then there was an attempt on his life. Oh, because he's a convicted felon. Yes, that's right, of course. Because he paid Stormy, which isn't even a campaign finance violation. Meanwhile, Hunter and Joe, with a laptop full of almost certain bribery and graft, that's, not a problem. So, but anyway, think of how sinister and how nasty a political party has to be to not give RFK Jr., if anyone needed Secret Service protection on this planet, it's RFK Jr.
I think somebody else is making those decisions.
You've been supportive of Israel's battle in Gaza. What about now? Would you be encouraging Israel?
Ended. And I think a physical barrier, yes, a wall in the urban areas and places where migrants can disappear very quickly. And then we need other infrastructure, including monitoring.
Ladies and gentlemen, ask yourself, why would they deny RFK Jr. Secret Service protection? Why would Democrats deny RFK Jr. secret? How does it benefit the Democratic Party? How would that be politically useful for Democrats to deny someone protection whose father was taken from this earth? RFK Jr.'s father was taken from him. And so you deny the son because what? Because he opposes the Democratic Party? Why? He's a presidential candidate about to endorse Trump. The fact that Democrats denied him Secret Service protection almost certainly was part of the calculus or the equation of RFK Jr. endorsing Trump. as always, the petulant nature of the wonderful morally superior, hurts them in the end.
What they fear is a third-party spoiler that could destroy President Biden's re-election chances. Well, they are not going to like this. Independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. explaining who he thinks is the biggest threat to democracy.
I can make the argument that President Biden is a much worse threat to democracy. President Biden has done something that no other president in history has done, which is to order media, particularly the social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Google, to censor his political opponents. And, I can say this because I just won a lawsuit in the Federal Court of Appeals, now before the Supreme Court, because he began censoring me 37 hours after he took the oath of office, swearing to defend the Constitution.
But Hillary Clinton doesn't seem fazed by RFK's campaign or his comments. She's busy scolding voters who don't like Biden. She wants them to just suck it up.
But it's Biden versus Trump. We know that.
It is.
What do you say to voters who are upset that those are the two choices?
Get over yourself. Those are the two choices.
Yeah, love that.
Right? And
good.
It's kind of like
now it's get over yourself. And by the way, those aren't the two choices. It's actually his vice president against Trump.
like one is old and effective and compassionate, has a heart.
Yes, Biden is compassionate and has a heart. That's why they ousted him for his vice president.
And really cares about people. And one is old and has been charged with 91 felonies. I don't understand why this is even a hard choice, really. I don't understand it.
Harold, when she says he really cares about people, the one consistent polling that we've seen, even from the beginning, was that when voters were asked, does he care about issues you care about that are important to you? His numbers on that have been low from the beginning. But anyway, that was just my commentary, really. My question for you is, are Democrats really freaking out about RFK pulling enough of votes away from Biden?
So I think part of the concern is me, and he's not giving me Secret Service protection. And instead of the host arguing with him or saying whatever she wanted, they bring in a little measly fact checker after the thing was wrapped. And then they say, well, actually, Joe Biden didn't personally censor RFK, and he didn't personally deny Secret Service. Okay, so they're saying Joe Biden doesn't have anything to do with the actions that the Biden administration is taking?
That's how they get away with everything. They lie by omission, and then they ask, okay, Democrats oftentimes, media almost always, lie by omission. It is a kernel of truth wrapped around a deceptive and misleading and disingenuous narrative. So, well, Biden doesn't personally do anything except eat ice cream. Other than that, there's nothing personally we know that he's actually done. Maybe signed bills that only increased inflation. They ousted him because he's not really personally doing anything. But his administration denied RFK Jr. Secret Service protection. His administration censored RFK Jr. If Trump's administration does anything, it's Donald Trump pressuring people to do this and that and this and that. It's all Trump's fault. And so when, like, for example, President Obama's administration accused Trump of being an operative of the Kremlin, then when you say, well, President Obama did not transfer the Oval Office in a peaceful manner to Trump, well, it wasn't him, it was his administration. But he was the boss, the top. He decided what was going on. Before Trump went into the Oval Office, he was investigated by President Obama's Federal Bureau of Investigation, Central Intelligence, National Security. That was President Obama's decision. But they say there's no evidence that it's his decision. It was the administration. There was so much worry, and they were so concerned that Trump could have been working for another country. And so they get this absurd narrative that removes culpability from the top Democrat, and then they say, oh, it's not really him, it's the administration.
That's what we're doing now. If anybody talks to me about democracy again, I'm going to shoot myself in the head. Okay?
Hey, what about democracy?
I knew that was coming. No one is talking about democracy. They just did a poll of Gallup unprompted. What is the biggest issue that concerns you right now? Immigration, poor government leadership, the economy, inflation, homelessness, unifying the country, crime. Democracy is like 3%. It's like the ninth thing that the only ones talking about this are deep state cable news contributors and white women on cable news. That's it. No one is talking about that. And even Hillary, he's saying, notice what Hillary didn't say. Hillary says this election is about one man cares and the other man's charged with crimes. What is she not saying? She's not saying who has vision. She's not saying, are you better off? She's not saying about anyone's record.
Plus, we already had Trump. That's why he's up, because we already had him. That's why Democrats are not doing well, because we've had them for 4 years. Okay, this isn't difficult. But, ladies and gentlemen, when his running mate is suggesting that they're going to drop out, it's almost certainly a done deal. This is huge. God bless America. This is an amazing, amazing moment. And I think that RFK Jr. is a very courageous, noble, wonderful human being. I hope one day to interview him on this channel. I hope to interview Tulsi Gabbard, but one day it would be absolutely wonderful if I could interview President Trump. Elon Musk. You know what? Once we get to over 300,000 subscribers, then I'll start interviewing people. I like to interview people on a live stream, which would be fantastic as well. Look, I think that RFK Jr. understands. I think he understands that if Democrats win, Elon Musk, himself, Trump, Tulsi Gabbard, all of these, anyone who has really gone up and spoken truth to the Democratic Party, Democrats will try to then do what they always do. And I think that endorsing Trump is a great thing for him. Being part of Trump's cabinet would be a fantastic thing for the country. Anyway, hit subscribe. Jeanette, thank you, by the way. Thank you very much. And to my super chat, thank you. I'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Beautiful.